I remember in 2013 how Uhuru Kenyatta got into the auditorium is not the same way he left that auditorium. He was, of course, surrounded by security men. I don't know that they're women. And also different motorcade. He didn't ride in the same vehicle that he came in?
Yeah, of course, if you look at the provisions of Article 138, Sub-Article 10, that requires IBC to declare the results, and then you read it together with the provisions of Article 140 in terms of the timelines for swearing in. Of course, if the president-elect when the president-elect has been declared, his status then changes, yeah? He becomes, for all practical purposes, he becomes the president. Only for purposes of transition, he has to be sworn in, and therefore the outgoing president remains the president until the handover of power officially has been completed, in this case, perhaps on 30th of August, if there is no petition. Now, that means that, of course, post the announcement, you can expect enhanced security, change of protocol, and he'll be treated as the president. You can expect communication, and I think Bobby has put it correctly, communication will now follow formal channels.
Right.
Of course, as he walks out, he may want to give us a short speech, it is a Thanksgiving speech, but you can expect the protocol to change immediately post-announcement, and you can expect the outgoing president to gradually, minimize his contact with the public to allow the assumption of office, the committee on the assumption of office, to issue the official communication. I think by law, right now, the president, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, has probably completed the transition and is only in State House for purposes of handing over power. Should there be an emergency, then he would continue. If there's no exceptional emergency, he will be holding forth only for a limited period to facilitate the transfer. So yes, in short, we will have two presidents actively, one in office, one waiting to come in, but enjoying the same perks. That's what it is.
And of course, the president-elect will have an office of the president-elect can actually issue formal communication. Javas, you wanted to add something?
Well, yeah, that's very true. And then again, since the time when Kenyans went into election on August 9th, and new officials, new politicians, new leaders voted into office, we know that now the issue of incumbency that's temporary arises, becomes active. For example, right now, you know that we do not have a sitting parliament, all right? We do not have a speakers of both houses, the Senate and the National Assembly. There are some things now that, factually speaking, the executive can do to the limitation of the law, and also anticipating that the arm of government, that is the legislature, will, according to program or schedule of law, get to be sworn into office. Now, these transitions that we witness, for example, the one we are witnessing through this election, puts to the fore one thing, that we are an organized and progressive democracy, something that other countries envy. So we as Kenyans actually should celebrate the fact that we can have such kind of peaceful transitions, and we are trusting that we're going to have a peaceful transition, and that whoever will be declared the winner will appreciate the fact that the majority have made their choice or their decision, and the fact that it will be prudent and an expectation, a great expectation of the people of Kenya, that insightful or incitement statements will not be made by that person who will not have succeeded to be elected, or politicians from allied parties within their coalitions. So I want to pleasantly imagine that we are going to learn from the history that we've had. And in this country, Gituko, I'll tell you this, that Kenyans are generally rational to a great extent until that rationality is stretched beyond elastic limits by the incitement of politicians. And so we need to appreciate that politicians have to know that upon their shoulders, imaginably strong, that Kenyans have placed so much hope that they know that the duty and responsibility of nation building is placed upon those shoulders or the laps of our leaders. And so the entire world's eyes are upon this country. The eyes of the country are upon Bomas and Chebukati. And what kind of reactions will be drawn from various parts of the country once that announcement is made. We expect order, we expect civility, but I think we also expect good manners.
And I'm getting some reminders here that in August 2017, yes, Raila Odinga was not in the auditorium as the president-elect was being declared, but he had been there alongside his NASA principals hours before the announcement by IEBC, but left. Of course, they had also been pursuing some more time to allow for verification of results. That never happened and eventually ended up at the Supreme Court, and that election was nullified. And Rashid, I'm being told that in 2013, something else also happened because Uhuru Kenyatta at that time had already left cabinet. So had William Ruto, remember, in 2013. But as soon as they were declared president-elect and deputy president-elect, they were accorded special security, obviously, but also their homes, both in Nairobi and upcountry, were secured, more security deployed to them. And of course, there was established the president-elect's office. It was at the KICC. So maybe these are things that may happen, whether it's Raila Odinga, whether it's William Ruto. And if it is William Ruto, then it's interesting because he's already the deputy president. So having an office of the president-elect, we don't know where it will be situated. If it is Rigathi Gachagua being elected as deputy president-elect, he'll have a special office also and more security to his home or family. And the same would happen to Martha Karua if she's elected to be deputy president-elect. The same sort of security would be beefed up at her home in Nairobi, but also in her upcountry home. And the same for Raila Odinga if you are to be announced the president-elect in this.
Nafikiri Sam, hilo ni swala ambalo kwa likizungumziwa sana wakati wa kampeni, kwamba tunasema tufanye kampeni na ikifika mahali tukishamaliza uchaguzi, matokeo yakipatikana, kwa utaratibu angalia yule ambaye atakuwa amepata wadhifa huo na yule aliyopo kuwe na kule kuchukua mamlaka ama kupokeza mamlaka mwingine kwa njia ya utaratibu, maelewano, amani, bila tashwishi yote. Nafikiri ni swala ambalo Wakenya wangependa kuliona. Lakini pia kwa taarifa ni kwamba ule msafara ambao tumeweza kuona wakati ule pale Bomas haukuwa msafara ambao tunatarajia uwe ni wa mgombea wa urais kwa tiketi ya Azimio la Umoja wa Kenya Bwana Raila Amolo Odinga, lakini labda muda wote kutoka sasa tunatarajia kwamba msafara wake labda utakuwa unatoka maeneo ya Karen. Basi tukipata picha za moja kwa moja tutakueleza msafara huo unaelekea wapi. Lakini kwa hivi sasa ni kwamba kwa taarifa zonazo ni kwamba yale magari tulikuwa tumeona yakiingia pale haukuwa ni msafara wake. Lakini pia kuna jambo moja ambalo mmeweza kulizungumzia na unapozungumza kuhusu masuala ya kuchukua mamlaka kwa ofisi na kadhalika. Tukiangalia ule mseto wa viongozi katika kambi zote mbili, tunaona kwamba pale kuna watu ambao ni weledi wa kazi, kwamba kuna mtu ambaye ako upande wa Azimio, lakini mtu aliye katika Kenya Kwanza anajua yule jamaa ni mzuri kwa masuala fulani, na kuna watu ambao wako Azimio akiangalia upande wa Kenya Kwanza anajua ni uzuri. Tunaweza pata siasa komavu kwa yoyote akiingia madarakani, anapokuwa anaunda serikali yake katika nyadhifa muhimu, akavunja utamaduni uliokuwepo na akabisha hodi kwa kambi ya simu kwenda kutafuta utendaji, akajumuisha katika serikali yake. Tunaweza kuona kitu kama hicho kwa mara ya kwanza taifa letu la Kenya?
Inawezekana. Unakumbuka kwamba haitakuwa mara ya kwanza kufanyika.
Nasema kulingana na zile siasa zilivyokuwa, yani kwa sababu kumekuwa na siasa kali na kampeni kali.
Lakini sasa hivi huenda ikawa ni changamoto kubwa sana. Kwa mfano, acha tuchukue taswira hii. Kwa majadiliano haya, Bwana Odinga ana ule muungano wake wa Azimio. Alafu kwa mfano akipata ushindi, itakuwaje kwamba ana vyama karibu 26 ambavyo vimemuunga mkono, aondoke katika vyama hivyo 26 badala ya kuchukua mmoja wa hao ama wote, karibu wote kutoka mrengo huo, kumfanya waziri ama katibu wa kudumu, achaenda akachukue mtu kutoka kwa mfano mrengo wa Kenya Kwanza. Ama kwa mfano naibu wa rais William Ruto awe ndiye ametangazwa mshindi, na kumbuka kwamba kuna vyama ambavyo vimemuunga mkono na kumpatia huo ushindi. Itakuwaje kwamba ataacha kuchagua watu katika mrengo huo, wengine ambao walimpatia walimuunga mkono wawe sio wakuu wa vyama, aende katika upande ule mwingine? Iwapo atazingatia hiyo kwa mara ya kwanza, kuna wale ambao watamchukulia kwamba ni msaliti. Kwa hivyo itakuwa ni vyema kwamba hata akitaka kwanza ajadiliane na wenzake katika mrengo, alafu apeane muda ateue baadaye, lakini asiteue moja kwa moja. Lakini ingekuwa ni vyema sana kwa ishara.
Utaletaje mtagusano na kuondoa tofauti za kisiasa? Kama labda nimesema na mhitaji Steve, na nyinyi mnajua uwezo wake Steve, na mnasema usimchukue kwa sababu alikuwa upande mwingine. Je, tutaweza kufika pale mahali tunataka kama taifa?
Yawezekana, kwa sababu ukiangalia katika mataifa endelevu kama vile Marekani, tukiangalia kama rais wa atamu ya 16 Abraham Lincoln aliwateua wale ambao walikuwa ni wapinzani wakubwa sana wake. Ukiangalia Rais Obama pia akawateua watu ambao walikuwa wapinzani wake wakuu. Kwa hivyo inawezekana, lakini sio jambo rahisi. Inategemea na ukakamavu wa kiongozi huyo, jinsi ambavyo moyo wake na fikra zake zimenyooka, na jinsi ambavyo anatilia utaifa mbele, ili kwamba kwa kuleta watu pamoja, na kwa sababu ya kampeni ambazo huwa zinakuwa zimechacha moto, unajua kwamba hataki ukuta wa taifa ubomoke. Unajua usema kwamba usipoziba ufa basi ni ukuta utajenga. Kwa hivyo kama ni hivyo, itabidi kwamba angalie, je, ni achague mtu kiongozi kutoka kwa pande pinzani, ama atafute mtu kutoka kabila hilo na isikuwe pengine mwanasiasa shupavu, ili kwamba iweze kufanyika namna hiyo. Huenda pia ikafanyika hivyo.
Na Bobby, labda alafu mpe Steve, kwa sababu tuliona wakati fulani pale kulikuwa na tofauti nchini Kenya, tukaona kwamba viongozi walikuja wakatembea, kama mnakumbuka, katikati jiji la Nairobi, kuonesha wananchi kwamba tumeweka tofauti zetu kando, tutaka tusonge pamoja. Lakini hatua mojawapo ya kuweka tofauti ni kama kuna mtu ambaye ana umuhimu katika ujenzi wa taifa, na haijalisha ukambi gani, wewe kuweza kumleta kambi yako, nafikiri moja kwa moja umeondoa zile hisia na wananchi watakuelewa na nchi itasonga mbele.
I think that was directed to Bobby, but let me give it a shot. So in principle, allow me to answer in English. Struggling, not as fluent as Java's, yeah. Now, in principle, there is nothing wrong with political cross-pollination, because you are shopping for talent, you are shopping for allies. In any event, the unity of the state is more important than partisan political positions. But in our local context, we will also appreciate that what happens is not necessary to advance national interest. Sometimes cross-pollination is founded on very narrow parochial interests, like just killing opposition. You know, we saw this since time immemorial. In Moi's time, he would co-opt members of the political opposition into his government to silence them. And he would appoint as many, and Bobby's here can tell us about that, because, you know, before we had this new constitution that delinked the executive from the legislature, you had nearly a third of members of the National Assembly serving in the cabinet, sometimes even from the political opposition. That makes it very difficult to check the government. I think what we must not do is to create or inject impurities, political impurities, that can contaminate the ideology of a political party, because we still need to have a clear, coherent political communication coming from the political opposition. You have the leader of minority that says this is the second most largest party in parliament. Ideally, we shouldn't be having people aligned to the political to the minority party serving in the majority government. You get? Because then that undermines accountability. But if you're looking for technocrats, bureaucrats, in this election we've seen the likes of David Ndii on the other side, the likes of Professor Makau Mutua on this other side. If for one reason or another, whoever wins the presidency wants to co-opt either of these technocrats, they would be at liberty to do so, because then they'll be coming to lend their professional expertise. That's okay.
Na pia Bob, labda kuna mtu atasema itakuwa ngumu kwa sababu hata watu wakienda kupiga kura, labda pengine kila mrengo ulikuwa kuna tayari unajua tukishinda huyu ni nani, nani. Na kuna lile swala kwamba watu wanaogopa kwamba anayeshinda anachukua kila kitu, kumaanisha anayeshindwa hana nafasi kisheria ya kuwa na nyadhifa yake kama kiongozi wa upinzani rasmi kisheria. Mlichukua ya maoni wakati tunasema tunasubiri katiba ya mwaka 2010. Hili mbona alikuweza kuafikiwa?
Manake ni kwa sababu ya mfumo ambao tulikubaliana kama Wakenya tuwe nao katika uongozi wa ngazi ya utekelezaji wa kitaifa, yani national executive, na tulichukua mfumo wa kimombo tunasema presidential. Na kwa hivyo sasa unaona kwamba ni zile taasisi za dola ama vitengo vya dola ambavyo ndivyo ambavyo vinatiliwa msingi na kipaumbele. Kwa hivyo kuna national executive, kuna bunge la kitaifa, alafu kuna mahakama. Kwa hivyo katika huu mfumo utakuta kwamba na ule mfumo ambao sasa upinzani ama kiongozi wa upinzani yupo katika bungeni na wadhifa wake bungeni maalum, utakuta kwamba ni katika ule mfumo wa ubunge, yani parliamentary system. Na hapa tumejaribu kuileta hapo awali, ukiangalia rasimu za katiba za awali kama ni ile ya Bomas na hata ile ya kwanza sisi kama Committee of Experts tulikuwa tumeichapisha Harmonized Draft Constitution of Kenya, ilikuwa inajaribu kuleta hii mifumo yote miwili pamoja, mfumo wa urais. Kwa hivyo iwe kama mseto, mfumo wa urais na mfumo wa ubunge, lakini mwisho wa Kenya wakaamua kwamba ni mfumo wa urais ambao utakuwa nao, lakini si ati kwamba hakuna upinzani. Tofauti ni jinsi chanzo na chimbuko cha serikali na serikali inaendesha shughuli zake kutoka wapi. Kwa hivyo mfumo wa ubunge,
unamshtua Steve
kwa hivyo serikali inaendesha shughuli zake kutoka bunge. Unakuta waziri mkuu yuko bungeni, mpinzani wake ambaye ndio kiongozi wa upande ambao ulishindwa ama ulikuwa wa pili wakati wa uchaguzi, ndio anakuwa kiongozi ama kinara wa upinzani. Kwetu shughuli bungeni ambazo sasa zinaongozwa na tuseme yule ndio kiongozi wa masuala ama shughuli za upinzani zinachukuliwa, wadhifa unachukuliwa na kiongozi wa upinzani, leader of the minority. Na pia bungeni kuna ule upande ama wale wabunge na maseneta ambao ni wa kutoka chama ama mrengo ambao rais anatoka, na kuna wale ambao pia ni wa upinzani. Kwa hivyo si ati kwamba hakuna upinzani, ni mfumo tu na utaratibu wa jinsi upande wa upinzani unaweza kutekeleza majukumu yake. Kwa hivyo hilo ndilo tofauti, na tunaweza kumbuka kwamba manake hasa wakati ule tulikuwa tunaendesha mchakato wa BBI, kulikuwa na hilo swala la kwamba pengine hakuna kiongozi wa upinzani, ndiposa upinzani hauna mashiko ama ushawishi wowote. Lakini tukumbuke jinsi upinzani, na hata wakati ule mheshimiwa aliyekuwa waziri mkuu Raila Odinga kuanzia mwaka 2013 hadi mwaka 2017, yeye hakuwa bungeni, lakini jinsi alivyoendesha shughuli na kusimamia shughuli za upande wa upinzani. Na kwa hivyo sio ati kwamba upinzani hauna nguvu katika mfumo kama huu.
And just a question, Steve, because whoever is declared the president and they find themselves, they're in State House, but they don't have the majority in Parliament. For instance, you don't have the majority in the National Assembly. So the lead of majority is not from your party. What happens? How do you deal with government business in the House? Who leads the government business? Is it your lead of minority? Or how do you deal with it?
Well, happily that scenario may not, let me not say may not obtain, because looking at the numbers, it seems that Azimio has a slight majority on the number of elected members of the National Assembly. The leader of majority by law, by constitutional definition, is the leader of the party that has the highest number of elected members, and the leader in the National Assembly, and the leader of minority is the second most largest party in the National Assembly. If it so happens that the leader of majority and the head of the executive come from opposing camps, we would still expect them at the very minimum to have some harmonious work relationship. We will expect, Parliament has been designed to work independently outside the influence of the office of the President of the Executive. So that if it's about generating bills, the bills would be generated by the Cabinet, the Attorney General would be responsible for preparation of those bills and then share them with the Leader of Majority. The Leader of Majority is, by law, mandated to ensure that those bills are tabled and canvassed. If he declines, then there would be need for judicial intervention, because then he would be sabotaging the functions of that office. The function of that office is supposed to go on smoothly, whether the Leader of Majority is within the same party as the president or not, whether they have fallen out or whether they are they have a harmonious.
But how practical is that? Because remember the different bills that have been passed in the top of Parliament, whether it's the security laws or it's the VAT introduction on fuel. And you find that Leader of Majority then, Aden Duale, would be at the forefront, assuming that President Kenyatta's party was ODM, led by John Mbadi, and Aden Duale does not believe in what the government was pushing for. How do you reconcile that? Because Aden Duale would have been forced to propagate something he doesn't believe in.
Well, you know, there's no limit on how far someone can go to sabotage a constitutional office. But what we do know for sure is that the Constitution expects a harmonious work relationship between the two offices, regardless of the composition of the nature of their relationship between the office of the president and the office of the Leader of Majority. I think that scenario has not already played, but if it were to happen, if Parliament does not want to advance the legislative interest of the executive, then the executive is at liberty to move to court to compel them to pass legislation that are key. If they cannot pass those legislation, then we would have to review. The political accountability would be the executive would then retreat back and say, you know what, I am going to implement the laws that have been passed by Parliament. If Parliament decides to sabotage national interest, then they do not punish the president. You punish the general population, which includes the voters.
All right, it's now 4:30 p.m. We've been here for more than 5 hours waiting for the fifth. And I think, Lulu, we have to let go for another team to continue with the very important duty of waiting, because that's our work. My name is Sam Gituku.
Nami nasema shukran sana kwa wageni wetu siku ya leo, lakini haimaanishi kwamba tunaacha kupeperusha taarifa hizi moja kwa moja, lakini kuna wengine ambao wanaingia sasa, wanashikilia zamu. Ni Wahiga Maura, Jeff Koinange, Vigilu Badili, Nabii Mashima Kapombe.
Na bila shaka tulikuwa watatu, hatujabahatika kupata matokeo ya moja kwa moja kwa rais wa tano, lakini tuna wenzetu wanne wanakamilisha marais wa kwanza, wa pili, wa tatu, wa nne watakuwa wanaingia studioni ili watupe matokeo, yani nani atakuwa rais wa tano. Mtazamaji, tunasema asante zidi kutizama Citizen TV. Tunakupeleka moja kwa moja ukumbini Bomas ujue kinachoendelea.
Simama, Wakenya wote simama. Simama, wewe shujaa, simama. Nchi yangu, jukumu langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Najivunia taifa langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Simama, Wakenya wote simama.
tuangalie ukatumo kibuka Kenya yetu ni nchi ya mashujuka neba kigano katingo suka
Hatuchagui kazi, kazi ni kazi. Boda boda, vijana mitaani.
Kenya yetu molembe, no bomo no wachani talikende. Nande tiganya saya tolende, atokitera tuagate botambe.
Nchi yangu, jukumu langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Najivunia taifa langu, mimi ni shujaa.
Particularly about the integrity of the IBC technology and server. We have intelligence and reports that their system was penetrated and hacked, and that some of the IBC officials actually committed electoral offenses, and some of them ought to have been arrested if they were not arrested. I think you will remember that I had earlier stated that Bomas of Kenya was a crime scene, and that was way before the results of this. The reason that I say Bomas of Kenya was a crime scene is because as Kenyans were busy waiting for the outcome of this election,
Nchi yangu, jukumu langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Najivunia taifa langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Simama, Wakenya wote simama, songe pamoja. Simama, wewe shujaa, simama. Yelele, yelele, simama, Wakenya wote simama. Simama, wewe shujaa, simama. Wewe shujaa.
Commission IBC to account to the people of Kenya to deliver a free, fair, credible, verifiable election. The people of Kenya deserve nothing less. Thank you very much. I will now give it to my colleagues. And lastly, because my colleagues are indicated, lastly, may I say that there is we will be able to know and to tell the Kenyan people, because a result that is not verifiable is not a result, and therefore that is our and the chairman had actually assured Kenyans that he will run this process transparently, which he has not.
Is the party chairman, a party leader, presidential candidate coming here?
I will not take questions for now, but we were not in a position to ask our party leader to come before we actually verify the results. So the first step was to verify results, which we have not been able to do. Yes. Can you tell us about the irregularities? Yeah, I think that's enough. That's enough. Thank you very much.
Kukinyesha tusinyeshewe, tuwe salama. Serikali kaingilia, tapunguza gharama. The day is finally here, tunahama. Finally, sawa kwa wote. Hata yule mapato ni duni, malazi yopata. Tujenge. Sisi wana Kenya tujitenga. Tuanzeni kujenga. kwa mabega. Tunajenga, tunajenga. The journey starts with you and with me. Freedom is here.
Mimi na wewe ndio wenye nchi, tujenge pamoja.
Watoto wetu wasikose mahali pa kwenda. Chukua mawe na simiti, weka kwa mabega. Tunajenga, tunajenga. Tuanzeni kujenga. Watoto wetu wasikose mahali pa kwenda. Chukua mawe na simiti, weka kwa mabega. Tunajenga. Tuanzeni kujenga. Watoto wetu wasikose mahali pa kwenda. Chukua mawe na simiti, weka kwa mabega. Tunajenga, tunajenga. Tuanzeni kujenga. Watoto wetu wasikose mahali pa kwenda. Kenya yasonga mbele. Kenya yasonga mbele. Kenya yasonga mbele.
Kenya yetu
Kenya yasonga mbele.
babu zetu walimwaga damu kukomboa nchi yetu Kenya, tukapata uhuru. Kwa juhudi zao tunajitawala, kwa ujuzi wetu tunasonga mbele.
Kenya yasonga mbele. Kenya yasonga mbele. Zetu Tanzania yasonga mbele. Tunajenga nchi yetu. Kenya yasonga mbele. Kenya yasonga mbele. Kenya yasonga mbele. Zetu Tanzania yasonga mbele. Tunajenga nchi yetu. Kenya yasonga
Viwandani tunachapa kazi, mashambani tunachapa kazi, twaboresha makao, tunachapa kazi, twaboresha afya, tunachapa kazi, tunasonga mbele.
Kenya yasonga mbele. Kenya yasonga mbele. Zetu Tanzania yasonga mbele. Tunajenga nchi yetu. Kenya yasonga mbele. Kenya yasonga mbele. Kenya yasonga mbele. Zetu Tanzania yasonga mbele. Tunajenga nchi yetu. Kenya yasonga mbele. The future is bright.
For the youth of Kenya,
The future is bright.
for the children of Kenya,
The future is bright.
with a big for agenda,
The future is bright.
tunavuta kwa pamoja.
Is bright. Yaani Kenya ni makao yetu. Twafurahia uhuru wetu. Yaani Kenya ni makao yetu. Twafurahia uhuru wetu. Kenya yasonga mbele. Kenya yasonga mbele. Zetu Tanzania makao. Tunachapa kazi, tunaboresha afya. Tunachapa kazi, tunasonga mbele. Tunavuta kwa pamoja. Kenya ni makao yetu. Twafurahia uhuru wetu. Kenya ni makao yetu. Twafurahia uhuru wetu. Kenya I hear a whisper in the wind of a people with a dream, different colors of a nation come together for a win.
We share spirit deep within, our hearts beat in the rhythm. Different faces of the nation come together for the win.
Pamoja tunaweza, twajijenga. Pamoja we can.
We are
we rise, we spread beyond our limits. We are stronger. We have fire. We are. We are. We are. We are. Warriors. Warriors. We are warriors. We are. We are. We are. Do the incredible.
This is Kenya's Choice 2022, and many thanks for keeping it Citizen TV, even as we keep our cameras and our eyes fixed on the Bomas of Kenya, the National Tallying Center. My name is Wahiga Mwaura, and I'm not alone here in studio. I'm together with...
Na bila shaka mimi ni Mashirima Kapombe, tukiwa tunaendelea tu kusubiri tangazo hilo kutoka IEBC. Mwenyekiti wa IEBC Wafula Chebukati alikuwa anatarajiwa kutangaza rais aliyechaguliwa mwendo wa saa 9, wakaahirisha hadi mwendo wa saa 10. Sijui kama wanangojea saa 11 ndio iwe the 5th at 5 p.m.
That is the question we are all asking. And Victoria Rubediri, all eyes, of course, are at the Bomas of Kenya. And this is after slightly over 14.1 million Kenyans took to the polling stations on August 9th. And their votes taking that journey from the over 46,000 polling stations to now the Form 34C, bearing the final result of the presidential race. 4 presidential candidates campaigned, they debated, and now waiting for this moment of reckoning. But we also have
Jeff Koinange here in the house, folks, and I tell you, it's been a wait and a wait and a wait. The patience of Kenyans is wearing. It's going to wear at some point because, you know, Chebukati promised to make an announcement 3 p.m. It's now 5 p.m.
The choirs can only do so much.
I think the fat lady has come and sang again. So we're waiting. It's a waiting game.
But something very interesting, Jeff, happened about a little under 30 minutes ago. The chief agent of Raila Odinga, Saitaba Ole Kanchori, called for a sort of impromptu press briefing just outside that auditorium there at the Bomas of Kenya, and said some very interesting things that may shed light on why we continue to wait and why presidential candidates and their agents have actually walked out of Bomas, including members of the diplomatic corps, and are now holding impromptu meetings on different parts of the premises of the Bomas of Kenya. This is what Saitaba said. He said, this election is not verifiable from where they sit. He raised questions with the chairman of the IBC that they feel they do not have answers to. And when the chief agent of Raila Odinga was asked whether his presidential candidate is expected, he said that Raila Odinga will not be called to Bomas until his team has verified the results. I have agreed with them, and these results are contained in the Form 34C, a compilation of Form 34Bs from the 290 constituencies plus one from the diaspora vote. And so that's what we know at this moment. Obviously, you can tell that something is afoot for an announcement that was to be made at 3 p.m. Almost 2 hours later, no sign of the commissioners, a lot of activity there. And then this statement by the chief agent of Raila Odinga, giving us a bit of an idea of where the dispute may be, and that is what may have caused this particular delay. Thanks for staying with us, wherever you're joining us from in Kenya and around the world. And let me also introduce our guests who are here with us. Bobby Mkangu continues to remain with us, an advocate of the High Court. Thanks for your patience today and just for bearing with this. We want to pick your mind a little bit. We're also joined by Titus Mahanu, an advocate of the High Court. And Titus, I can start immediately with you. You listened to that press briefing. What do you make of it?
Of course, under the Constitution, any candidate that has participated in an election has a right to either accept the results, has a right to reject the results based on how they view and based on the grounds that they feel ought to be put out in the public there.
Okay. What do you think Saitaba was not saying?
As to try and read into his intention, yes, a bit difficult, but what I can say is I foresee a situation where this election is going to be challenged.
You foresee that, and we have some of the timelines, and we'll be showing our viewers a bit later on what that looks like. But my goodness, this is quite a trend.
Definitely, if the elections are going to be challenged, we are looking at a scenario where the petition challenging the declaration has to be filed within 7 days. And 14 days after filing of that petition, the Supreme Court needs to determine it. Now, the question will be, or it will depend as to how the verdict will come. If the Supreme Court will be able to overturn the declaration, then we are staring at another 60 days within which another fresh election needs to be held.
And of course,
we are looking at probably towards the end of October before we can conclude this exercise of elections.
Nadhani Mkangi, ukiangalia jinsi hali ilivyo pale, baadhi ya viongozi kutoka pande zote mbili walikuwa wametulia awali. Sasa hivi unaona ni kama wengine wanatoka, wengine wanarudi, wengine wanapigana pambaja. Je, inakupa matumaini kwamba kutakuwa na tangazo leo la rais aliyechaguliwa?
Nadhani manake mwenyekiti na tunasema ndio tuseme mwenye shughuli ya leo, Mheshimiwa Wafula Chebukati alikuwa amewatangazia Wakenya na tunaweza kusema ulimwengu mzima, manake macho yanaangazia Kenya leo, kwamba atatoa taarifa ama matangazo yake rasmi kuhusu ni nani ameibuka mshindi wa uchaguzi wa urais wa mwaka huu hivi leo, na hata alikuwa ametaja kwamba hii shughuli itaanza saa 9 mchana. Kwa hivyo nadhani ataendelea na shughuli na atatoa matangazo yake. tumesikia pia kutoka upande wa mgombea wa Azimio Kenya One wakisema kwamba hawajaridhika na mchakato haswa kuhakikisha matokeo kufikia sasa, lakini hakutoa taarifa za ziada. Pengine kwa upande wao manake wanajua siku za makataa.
Bobby, if I can interrupt you, just to let our viewers know, there seem to be some leaders exiting the Bomas of Kenya. I've seen outgoing Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria is leaving. Outgoing Governor James Ongwae should be of Kisii also leaving. A sign, and of course they are Azimio leaning. We don't know where they're headed to, possibly to converge either at KICC at the Azimio Command Center, or maybe even to meet with presidential candidate Raila Odinga, but that is their motorcade, and they have left the Bomas of Kenya. And this is a kind of activity we may see in line with that statement by Saitabao Ole Kanchori that they haven't verified the results. They are not clearly satisfied if Chebukati was to read or make an announcement right now. And so this is very telling. Mkangu, you can continue.
Nilikuwa nasema kwamba siku za makataa za kikatiba ni kesho. Kwa hivyo hatujui kama upande wa mgombea aliyekuwa waziri mkuu Raila Odinga wanataka kuiomba tume iwape fursa ya wao wenyewe kuhakikisha kwamba wanakubaliana na matokeo ambayo yatatangazwa leo, lakini hiyo inaashiria kwamba pengine wanajua matokeo, kwa sababu huwezi kukikataa ambacho hujakiona ama hujakisikia. Lakini kama ulivyouliza, nadhani shughuli itaendelea, manake hapo awali tulipokuwa tunachanganua na wenzangu tulikumbuka kwamba katika chaguzi za hapo awali za mwaka 2013, 2017 mgombea Raila Odinga hakuwepo wakati mara ya kwanza mwenyekiti Isaka San na mwaka 2017 Wafula Chebukati alikuwa anatangaza matokeo. Kwa hivyo nadhani hilo la kwamba hao hawajaridhika na ambacho kama nilivyosema pengine washajua ni nini kitakachotangazwa. Kama hawatakuwa Wahiga amesema kwamba tumeona wengine wakiondoka, nadhani shughuli itaendelea. Wafula Chebukati atafanya matangazo yake, na kwa sababu huu sio mwisho wa mchakato, manake matangazo ya Wafula Chebukati sio hapa, mfumo wetu sio kama nchi jirani Tanzania ambapo hakuna fursa ama nafasi ya kupinga matokeo katika mahakama ama katika taasisi nyingineyo. Hapa kuna hiyo fursa, na kama hawajakubaliana nayo basi wana yeyote, manake hata sasa hatujajua matokeo.
Lakini pia Chebukati alisema kwamba atahakikisha kwamba hili tangazo halitafanywa usiku.
Naam.
Je, kuna uwezekano kwamba si kama Titus anaweza jibu hilo, kuna uwezekano wa tangazo hili kutolewa kesho?
Naam, nitajaribu kujibu kwa Kiswahili. Kulingana na sheria, kuna sheria ambayo inaitwa Interpretation, General Provisions and Interpretation Act, Cap 2 ya Kenya, ambayo inapatia mwongozo kamili wa kuchanganua mambo ya muda, kwa sababu kikatiba Chebukati amepewa siku 7. Lakini ukiangalia katika ile sheria, siku 7 katika kisheria inamaanisha siku kama 8-9 hivi. Manake siku ambaye jambo lafaa kufanyika huwa haihesabiwi. Kwa hivyo bado ana muda, na hata ikiwa labda kungekuwa na kazi imemzidia hivyo kana kwamba hawajamaliza mambo ya verifiability, angeweza kuenda kotini na kuuliza muda zaidi. Manake katiba haijatoa mwongozo kamili ya kwamba siku 7 zinapoisha basi hiyo shughuli inakuwa imeishia hapo. Hapana, imesema tu ana uwezo wa kutoa uamuzi wake chini ya muda wa siku 7. lakini kwa sababu tuko na Supreme Court hapa Kenya, ikiwa huo muda umemwishia, anaweza enda kotini akauliza muda zaidi.
Okay. Bobby, let me bring you in here because there's a lot of speculation, especially on social media, as to what appears on that Form 34C and whose signatures should be appended on it. I've been seeing talk of some chief agents refusing to sign that form. Are they needed for that declaration to be made?
Well, at the end of the day, and we've seen even forms that stem from the polling stations, which some do not have signatures from the agents, and so that detail is recorded, and the signatures from the agents indicate a consensus, an agreement with what is indicated in those forms. So at the end of the day, the forms were still transmitted. The returning officers still did bring them to the National Tallying Office. So it is not the signatures of the agents that particularly legitimize the legality of the form itself, because it's a form that is of the honors of the chairperson of the IEBC as the National Returning Officer. So the signatures from the agents, at the end of the day, do infuse a level of credibility and agreement as to what they indicate, but it does not stop the National Returning Officer from declaring the elections because one side has refused to sign or has indicated reservations with what is in the form. So at the end of the day, if the chairperson decides to make the formal declaration, he will go ahead and do it and indicate that there were reservations from whatever side it was and the particular aspects of the reservations. And then those issues will be dealt with in the next step, and especially so if the side which is opposed to the declaration and the content of the form does choose to use the next step, and that is to petition at the Supreme Court.
And basically, just to probably an addition, the moment you see a candidate to an election or their representatives objecting, disputing, or refusing to sign Form 34C, just like at the polling stations, you are you ought to know that you are staring at an election petition.
Na Titus, kidogo tusikize kile ambacho kinaendelea, maana kinaonekana kwamba kuna nyimbo sijui ni za sifa ama ni za nini. Hebu tusikize. Tujue kile ambacho kinaendelea Bomas.
Serikali yetu imbioni, serikali yetu imbioni, tunafuata mwendo wetu Kenya. Heko jamhuri, heko jamhuri, heko jamhuri, Kenya yetu yaenda mbele. Heko jamhuri, heko jamhuri, heko jamhuri, Kenya yetu yaenda mbele. Twaenda mbio, Kenya yaenda mbele. Heko
Machakos.
And folks, if you're listening in, you can tell from the body language of the people in that auditorium, it's very telling. It's very telling. You can see Kenya Kwanza are literally going with the flow. And a moment ago, you saw the likes of Siaya Governor-elect James Orengo leaving this area. And his body language said it all. Wahiga, I don't know if you noticed that.
There's a lot of movement here. This is a secure part of the auditorium. It's very hard to get in there, Jeff. And you must have the right sort of accreditation. We're seeing members of the diplomatic corps making their way there. You're seeing agents of presidential candidates also. You wonder what's happening behind the scenes. What are we not aware of at this time? But the body language here, Jeff, doesn't need much interpretation, does it?
No. They are going with the flow. It looks like mostly Kenya Kwanza who is doing that.
And so here's what we know so far. About 40 minutes ago or so, after silence from the agents of both leading presidential candidates, Saitabao Ole Kanchori had an impromptu press briefing just on the lawn there of the Bomas of Kenya. He said from where they sit, the verification was opaque. They did their tally and they have not been able to access the Form 34C. They have questions. They believe the election is not verifiable. And for that reason, they will not be asking or inviting their presidential candidate to make his way to the Bomas of Kenya until they have that confirmation. So that is their challenge at this particular moment. Remember, a few days ago, Saitabao had actually walked up to the dais there and stated that the Bomas of Kenya is a crime scene. Remember, also, Wafula Chebukati had stated that he will make this announcement during daylight hours. Jeff, we have about 52 minutes to 6 p.m. He wants to stick within that. He's got another 52 minutes or so to make that announcement. But I'm told we also have some more news from the IBC. Mashirima.
Naam, bila shaka zile taarifa ambazo naarifiwa kwamba tuendelee kwanza huku tukingoja taarifa hizo ziweze kuthibitishwa, lakini kama tumekuwa tukisema hapa, hizo nyimbo si za sifa, ni za uzalendo, lakini inaonekana ni upande mmoja ambao unahisi kwamba ni wazalendo hivi sasa. Tumekuwa tukitarajia kwamba tangazo hili litafanyika toka saa 9, lakini baadhi ya viongozi haswa kutoka Azimio la Umoja tumewaona wakiondoka kutoka hapo Bomas. Kama alivyosema awali Wahiga, ni kwamba wakala mkuu wa upande wa Azimio Saitabao Ole Kanchori alikuwa na wanahabari hapo awali na kusema kwamba wanatashwishi kwa sababu hawajaweza kuona hiyo fomu 34C ambayo ndio imejumlisha matokeo kutoka zile fomu 34B. Kumbuka walikuwa wanahakiki fomu 34A zilizokuwa kwenye Kim's kit, kisha wanalinganisha na zile original copies, kisha wanalinganisha na kile ambacho kilikuwa kimenakiliwa kwa 34B na kuzijumlisha kwenye fomu 34C. Kile ambacho tulikuwa tunatarajia ni kwamba hadi kufikia sasa Wafula Chebukati atakuja na fomu 34D ambayo ndio cheti cha kumkabidhi mshindi wa uchaguzi huu wa urais. Kinyang'anyiro ambacho bila shaka kimekuwa kigumu, sijui nisemeje, manake zile takwimu ambazo tumekuwa tukiona ni kwamba hawa wagombeaji wawili wakuu wamekuwa kikaribiana sana. Lakini nadhani kwa sasa kile ambacho wengi wanataka kujua ni nini haswa kinachoendelea Bomas, mbali na wale ambao tunawaona wakiongoza shughuli hiyo kwa nyimbo za uzalendo. Kwa wageni wetu hapa tumeona haswa wale mabalozi na baadhi ya viongozi wakiwa wanakutana kule nyuma. Hivi sasa tunaona gavana wa kuchaguliwa James Orengo aliyekuwa mgombeaji katika eneo la Embakasi
pamoja na Nairobi woman rep elect Esther Passaris in the middle of that group, and others huddled, conversing, discussing on numerous phone calls happening at the same time. And the assembly there at that auditorium, Mashirima, has changed. A lot of empty seats now. A lot of people have left. Some we've seen them exiting in their vehicles there at the entrance of the entrance/exit of the Bomas of Kenya. And so this shot really telling us a lot in terms of the consultations that are happening at this particular time.
Now,
at this moment.
Waihiga, awali ulikuwa unatueleza sehemu ambapo tumeona hao mabalozi na viongozi wengine wakiwa wanaingia. Unasema ni sehemu ambayo si rahisi kufika. Nadhani wewe na Nimrod mlijaribu wako.
We were looking for some interviews yesterday, and that is a difficult place to access. And there's a lot of commotion around there. We don't know if all the commissioners are in there. That's where their lounge is. That's where they retreat to. That's where a lot of the work is happening beyond the validation verification you are seeing at the floor of the auditorium. There's a lot that was happening behind that corridor where the rooms are a place many of us journalists who are at the Bomas were not able to access. But obviously, some of the big questions that have been asked at this time has been, will IBC complete this process on time? It does look like they will. Who will they declare the winner? Well, we're still waiting.
We're still waiting. And also, for the fact of clearing this up for a lot of our viewers, because Bomas of Kenya has been the host of a lot of political posturing, if you will, where we see a lot of the political agents oftentimes being blamed by the IEBC commissioners for delaying the process. And when you look at this to our two guests, in terms of people leaving the amphitheater, some coming back in, phone calls flying here and there, what impact does it have on the process? At the end of the day, the Supreme Court said it's not an event. It's a process, one that started at the polling stations on August 9th. And according to that Maina Kiai ruling, that is where the presidential race was won or lost. So when we see these displays, what does it mean? Does it have any impact, any bearing whatsoever on that process? I'll start with you, Bobby.
In terms of the technical process, not so much. Mm-hmm. Because we know, and Kenyans have been watching the process of tallying, verifying up to this stage, and some of them also have been doing their own independent tallying, because as you indicated, the 34A forms are available on IEBC's website. So that aspect of it is so that there is transparency in the process, but also everyone can eventually verify what Chebukati announces, and as against what is in the forms. So in terms of that technical aspect, in terms of the program and the timing that the chairperson has indicated, I think that this does not have any great impact. We must remember also this ceremonial arrangement is very much again for the optics of accountability, of transparency, of inclusion, but it could be the case because it's not a direct or categorical constitutional requirement that we must have this kind of ceremony where we even invite the diplomatic corps to come and you witness this. I think it's more in the cause of considering this to be a major national and state event that the IEBC does make it, and declare in this very, very regaliad, if I may use that term, kind of event. Definitely, I think it has an impact, as I said, in terms of the optics and what those communicate out there to the Kenyans who are following this particularly, but also to the rest of the world, because they have been following this, they have been watching the events at IEBC, at Bomas of Kenya. And now we are seeing the choirs are back early in the morning. It was very much a celebratory mood with everyone in the auditorium, getting up and dancing and getting down, as we say, to the music that the different choirs and musicians were tuning out. So this I think has more impact in terms of what it communicates.
Okay. Gentlemen, if you could just look at the screens right now, look at live pictures of quite a few people literally walking out. There are quite a few people walking out, even as the religious...
But I'm not sure where... That was the Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate, UDA presidential candidate, William Ruto. I'm not sure where he's heading to, because what we're seeing on the auditorium is a build-up in terms of arrival of different delegations here to the dais there. We've seen interreligious council members, Jeff.
Right.
They've filled up some of those seats now at the stage. Archbishop Jackson Olesapit of the Anglican Church, Archbishop Martin Kivuva, the chair of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, Bishop Emeritus David Oginde, who's the chair of the, I think, Evangelicals Association of Kenya, and others. We're now seeing also presidential candidates also arriving. So I suspect Deputy President William Ruto, who's the Kenya Kwanza candidate, is being routed to probably be somewhere behind the scenes here, as it seems that we are now closer than ever before to that announcement, Jeff, that Kenyans and the region and the continent and maybe the world have been waiting for since 3 p.m.
Inaonekana kuna shughuli hapo ni kana kwamba lile tangazo ambalo tumekuwa tukilingoja litafanyika muda wowote kutoka sasa. Lakini unajua wanahabari huwa tuna tabia ya kusema muda wote kutoka sasa, alafu tutaendelea kusema muda wote kutoka sasa hadi saa 1. Kwa hivyo ni kuwa tuna subra tuweze kuona kile ambacho kitaendelea. Namuona huyo ni mgombeaji wa chama cha David Mwaure, akiwa pia anaingia hapo kwenye eneo la Bomas ambapo viongozi hao wa dini tayari wamekaa kwenye viti wakingojea tu tangazo hilo kutoka kwa Wafula Chebukati.
And I think everyone will be keenly following Jeff, the announcement that Wafula Chebukati makes, whether it aligns with Article 138 of the Constitution. The requirement to avoid a runoff would be to have a candidate who receives 50% plus 1 votes across the country and at least 25% of the votes cast in each of more than half of the counties. And there's been a lot of speculation that could this be the first runoff the country will see. Well, the man and the team that know could be stepping up onto the screen there.
Any moment from now.
Any moment from now, Jeff.
Literally any moment. It's becoming a bevy of activity over there. Wahiga, you said you tried to get into that space a while ago.
We did. We used everything we could to try and
labda leo mngefaulu.
our way there. The security team has been enhanced almost 3 times this week. There was a lean team on Tuesday into Wednesday. From Thursday, it was escalated. Even getting into the gate was a problem, even with the right documents. And yesterday, you had to fight to make your win, especially with the incidents. I know you guys saw, and we were in studio with some of you.
Yeah.
Laptops, and all, commotion over different issues. And so the security team here has had to keep changing their protocols as they assess the situation on the ground.
No, absolutely. And of course, that amphitheater floor has been cleared of those tables that initially were set up to verify the Form 34B coming in from the returning officers, 290 of them, but now all collated into the Form 34C that will eventually become Form 34D. That is the certificate that will be handed over to the winner, announced by IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati. That is the man, that's the face that we want to see come through that space right there and make that all-important announcement. Kenyans have been waiting patiently since last Tuesday when they went to the polls. But of course, with all this activity, familiar faces in the political scene making their way in and out of that amphitheater, and of course, raising a lot of questions as to what could they be discussing, what could be leading to this delay with very important individuals already in the room, having waited for hours before this point. So it doesn't help in terms of this vacuum of information. It can be filled with a lot of misinformation.
That's correct. It's been hard to really, trust what you see on social media this past week, Jeff.
And also the optics coming out of the screens. You can see the optics. What does this tell your average viewer? What's going on at Bomas, folks? I'm sure that's what they're asking. Around the country and around the world, what's going on at Bomas? You see that security at that place, it's being enhanced literally by the minute. And people are wondering, what's going on? When's Chebukati going to come out? What's he going to say? It's all a question of when, if.
The 7 most important people right now are the IBC commissioners.
Yeah.
We haven't spotted either of them.
Any of them.
Up until now. And I'm wondering who that security team there is clearing that corridor for. We've only seen one presidential candidate make their way out from there after they'd left, after they'd all stepped out. We're waiting to see whether George Ojakoya will come back in. And of course, the Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate, William Ruto. But the commissioners are the men and women of the moment. And we are waiting for them to emerge and hopefully emerge before 6 p.m. as per the promise that they made. What a week, what an election. It's been Titus and Mkangu here, even as we've continued to follow what's happening.
Naam, Wahiga, na leo nadhani ni siku muhimu kwa sababu iwapo tangazo hili litafanyika leo, basi inawapa wale ambao hawaridhishwa siku 7 za kwenda mahakamani kupinga matokeo. Kwa hivyo iwapo tangazo hili litafanyika leo, wale ambao wanapinga matokeo wana hadi Jumatatu ijayo kwenda kuwasilisha kesi mahakamani. Iwapo haitafanyika leo, itafanyika kesho, basi wana hadi Jumanne.
Okay, so this is now live from the Serena Hotel. Juliana Cherera, Justice Nyang'aya, these are IBC commissioners, Francis Wanderi, Irene Masit, 4 of the 7 IBC commissioners not at the Bomas of Kenya, but at the Serena Hotel, and they're about to issue a statement. We're not sure why they're not at Bomas. It was assumed they'd all be together, but let's listen in.
Ready? Is it morning? Oh. Good evening. As you can see, part of the commissioners are here because this is what we want to say. We have done the 2022 general election in the most effective and efficient manner. We have ensured that all the challenges have been contained, but okay. As you can see, we are part of the commissioners in the IEBC. We have conducted the 2022 general election, and we have ensured that we have improved the standards, and we have ensured that we have consistently communicated what is happening. We have partnered with all stakeholders, and we'll say it for a fact that as the Commission, we have done a good job. But some things need to be put out there. As you can see, the four of us, we are here, not at Bomas of Kenya, where the result is going to be announced, because of the opaque nature of how this phase has been handled. We therefore cannot take ownership on the results that is going to be announced. However, we have an open door that people can go to court, and because of the same, we urge Kenyans to be peaceful, because the rule of the law is going to prevail. Thank you.
Why can't you take it? What's happening?
I said because of the opaque nature of this last phase of the general election, and we are not able to take ownership of the results that will be announced. We are going to give a comprehensive statement, but this is from us, the four of us, and again, we urge Kenyans to keep calm. There is an open door that people can go to court, and the rule of law is going to prevail. Thank you.
What do you mean by people can go to court?
Some of the forms 34A have not been verified by the Azimio.
What is not happening?
Can you clarify on that?
We have said. Have you just come?
Commissioner. Yes. Commissioner.
A recap, because we are not going to take questions. Agreed? We will give a comprehensive detail of today's. I have said.
When is that likely to?
They want a recap. There are people who missed. Yes. We are saying we have upped the standards of election in this country. We have step by step faced the challenges that have been there. At the same time, we have ensured that things are running despite everything else. Now, we are not at Bomas of Kenya because we cannot take ownership of the results that is going to be announced because of the opaque nature which these results have been handled. We'll give details of this opaque nature very soon.
Why are you doing this now? Why are you doing this now? Like before?
Naam.
Those are live images from the Bomas of Kenya, the National Tallying Center. We've also brought you that short press briefing by 4 commissioners at the Serena Hotel. What is emerging is a split at the IEBC with Wafula Chebukati, the chair, and 2 commissioners who had earlier on made their way to the dais there at the Bomas of Kenya, possibly to release the results. But commotion ensued there at the dais, a security situation, and the security officers there are now trying to sort out the situation. But I know, Mashirima, you're also following what was happening at the Serena Hotel, where that press briefing just took place.
Naam, bila shaka na naibu mwenyekiti wa IEBC Juliana Cherera pamoja na makamishna wengine wa IEBC Julius Nyang'aya, Francis Wanderi na Irene Masit wakiwa wanatoa hotuba hapo kwa wanahabari wakisema kwamba wamejaribu zaidi kurekebisha yale ambayo yalikuwepo katika chaguzi za awali na kwamba uchaguzi huu wameufanya kwa njia nzuri kabisa na kwamba wameweza kushirikiana na washikadau wengine na kutoka kwao wanasema kwamba wamefanya kazi nzuri, lakini Julian hapo akisema kwamba kuna masuala ambayo wanahitaji kuyasema kwamba hawawezi kujumuika na wengine pale Bomas, lakini Faisal Abdulrahman ni Faisal Ahmed ambaye yuko Serena hivi sasa anaungana nasi kwa mengi zaidi. Faisal, kama unatusikia, hebu tueleze kwa nini makamishna hao hawaja kubali maswali na la msingi wamesema nini?
Na asante sana Mashirima, labda ungeweza kunikubalia niweze kuendelea kwa lugha ya Kiingereza. Now the 4 IEBC commissioners just a few minutes ago concluded a press briefing that was also very brief, less than 5 minutes, explaining that the whole process, the whole 2022 general elections were conducted in a way that they feel was actually very good and above board. However, they're saying that there was some issues with the last tallying, that is for the presidential candidates, and that they are not comfortable being part of it, and that there were some opaque things that were happening in which they do not want to be a part of. However, they've refused to take our questions, and they insist that they're going to give a more detailed press briefing after this. So we're just waiting to hear more from them, but all indications are showing that there is a dispute or discord between the IEBC commissioners, because a few moments ago 4 of them were here addressing the media on irregularities or opaqueness or opaque nature in which the presidential tally was actually conducted with. Now, from here, we're just going to see if they're going to give us that detailed brief or if we are going to actually go somewhere else and see what's happening. But so far, that is what we have here from Serena Hotel, and we just are keeping our eyes and ears open in case anything else pops up. Mashirima.
Ahmed hapo kutoka Serena akiwa anatueleza yale ambayo yamejiri katika mkahawa huo wa Serena, akisema kwamba makamishna hao 4 wamejitenga na matangazo ambayo tulikuwa tunatarajia kutoka kwa mwenyekiti wa IEBC Wafula Chebukati ambaye ni afisa mkuu wa uchaguzi wa urais. Makamishna hao wakiwa ni naibu wa IEBC Juliana Cherera, Julius Nyang'aya, Francis Wanderi na Irene Masit.
Now, Sam and Titus, you saw the pictures coming out of Bomas. Last 6 days, it's been pretty calm and tranquil. And Wahiga, you were there yourself. You saw that for yourself.
I mean, there were isolated incidents here and there, but
right.
nothing close to what was...
Nothing close to what we've just seen the last 30 minutes or so. And Chebukati had actually come down. He was on the dais, like you said, and then he disappeared back upstairs. 4 commissioners have taken off, saying they aren't going to go with the results of what they call the opaqueness of the election.
The last phase, specifically.
That's
what
correct.
she kept emphasizing.
What's
right.
going on?
Jeff, to be honest, of course, without doubt, the situation has been complicated by the statement that has been read by the 4 commissioners from Serena. If they had not read the statement, probably one would say it would have been a bit easier to cascade along the legal provisions. But having come out very clearly, very unequivocally, to state that they do not wish to be associated with the results that are going to be announced at Bomas, it really complicates the situation. Remember, this is something that we have never stared before in this country. So perhaps in as much as they have said that parties that dispute to it have a right to go to court, which of course is provided for in the Constitution. But the message that is strongly sent out there is that towards the tail end, the whole process has been compromised. And compromised in the basis that at this point, I suppose Chebukati is remaining with 3 commissioners. So it's 3 commissioners.
Two commissioners.
Two commissioners against 4. And I mean, in all strings of imagination, I wouldn't want to speculate, but how does it come to a point where 4 people are disputing against 2?
Bobby?
Nikiongezea Kiingereza mani?
Endelea tu kwa lugha ambayo wewe mwenyewe unaridhia.
Yale mwenzangu aliyosema ni kwamba hawa 4.
Bobby, let me interrupt you for a second. I can see there William Ruto's mother being escorted. I don't know if it's to the dais or outside. Of course, she's been here as all this has been happening, and we certainly hope the authorities here will quickly restore peace and calm to this auditorium. It's very crucial because the declaration of the president-elect will be made here. So I think she's being escorted out.
Yeah, looks like out.
Probably the state of security there is not one that can be guaranteed, but it is very unfortunate what has transpired here. And I don't know, to both my guests here, whether the Constitution envisioned a situation where there's a split in the commission. I know 2017 wasn't easy either. You remember Roselyn Akombe, the then commissioner, left just before the fresh election on the 18th of October 2017. And thereafter, you know, there were a lot of questions about how the commission had been running, whether they'd been united as they moved forward, but somehow they were able to soldier and weather whatever storm they went through and give Kenyans a decision. But this time round, it seems that that will not be the case. What does the Constitution say about a split in the IBC, if that was ever a discussion, Bobby?
I wanted to give that dynamic in terms of the optics, that the four commissioners, if I'm not wrong, are the newly appointed commissioners, the ones who came into office
September 2021,
yeah,
I believe?
last year.
Yeah.
And so we were probably seeing that institutional, you know, split. But we, in terms of the constitutionality and legality of what was intended today, we have to remember that, yes, the commission comprises, you know, constitutionally of the chairperson and the commissioners. So there is the sense that the chairperson is an institution unto itself. And that's why when you look at Article 138(10) and why the chairperson is the national returning officer of the presidential election, it does give that onus on the chairperson. It doesn't say it is the commission that announces.
It does put the onus
on the chairperson of the commission to declare the election, you know, within 7 days after the presidential election. So as long as the chairperson does eventually give that announcement, then we move to the next step. But as he said, it definitely compromises the legitimacy of that announcement that the chairperson will give. However,
just hold that thought, if you will, for a moment, because we've got our own Francis Gashuri on the floor of the Bomas of Kenya right now, the Nerve Center. Francis Gashuri, if you can hear us, what is going on?
Check, mic check, mic check.
Mic check is fine, Gashuri. You can go on. What's going on? You're talking to the studio. Gashuri, if you can hear us.
Jeff, I can hear you. Good afternoon. Doesn't look like a very good one here at the Bomas of Kenya. What started as a very patriotic event, escalating into scenes of violence. And this began with a news conference outside the Bomas of Kenya, where the Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate's chief agent in the presidential race, Saitabao Ole Kanchori, addressed the news conference and said that they were dissatisfied with the process, together with the other agents from the Azimio team, claiming that they had not been given access to the Form 34C. This is the form that tabulates all the presidential election results in the August 9th, 2022 presidential race. And as soon as Wafula Chebukati, the IEBC chairman, made his way to the auditorium to make a declaration of the presidential election results, violence broke out. At the main podium, we could see Narok Senator-elect Ledama Ole Kina, together with Saitabao Ole Kanchori and other Azimio leaders who are expressing their dissatisfaction with the results that Wafula Chebukati, the IEBC chairman, was just about to announce insofar as the presidential election result is concerned. And so some pandemonium broke out. There were people who went to the main podium, tried to rough up the IEBC chairman. Some of the seats there were thrown away. The podium from which the IEBC chairman was to make the declaration was also roughed up, but eventually it has been reconstructed, and security now intensified. Even members of the family of the deputy president who are seated here at the auditorium, including his mother and the children, have been evacuated from the building to a safe space where the deputy president also was at the lounge where he was waiting together with other presidential candidates in the August 9th race, George Wajakoya of the Roots Party, and Agano Party's Waihiga Mwaure. Now, the question that remains to be responded to, Jeff, at this point is whether the results will be announced or not. We understand that the IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, is still within the precincts of the Bomas of Kenya, and security arrangements being made. We can see the religious leaders, among them Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit of the Anglican Church of Kenya, Archbishop Martin Kivuva Musonde of the Catholic Archdiocese of Mombasa, together with other members of the Interreligious Council, have made their way back to the auditorium. Security now intensified under the leadership of Nur Gabo. Nur Gabo is the Deputy Inspector General of Police, together with other senior police officers. A contingent of General Service Unit officers came in and restored calm. What we now wait to see is whether IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati will come back here and make the declaration insofar as the presidential election result is concerned. Remember, Jeff, also 4 commissioners of IEBC, Vice Chair Juliana Huonge Cherera, Commissioner Francis Wanderi, Commissioner Irene Cherop Masit, Justice Nyaya, went and addressed the conference in a hotel where the dispute results that are just about to be declared by IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati, claiming that the process of valid verification here at the Bomas of Kenya was opaque and would not be part of the results that are just about to be announced. So tense moments here, Jeff. The choir, the NHIF choir, together with the Muungano choir, continues to build a patriotic song, maybe to pacify the situation and that has been building here as we wait for the next way forward insofar as the declaration of the presidential election results is concerned. Jeff, back to you.
You know what, Gashuri, we actually did get that press live from Julia Cherera and the other commissioners saying that they will not take ownership of the results that are about to be announced by IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati. Well, you're looking at pictures right there. It looks like the religious leaders have returned there, guys. It looks like Chebukati might be making his way back. He might still make that announcement that he said he would make this afternoon. What do you guys think?
Well, one good sign, hopefully, is I'm hoping there's no injuries. Some of the scenes we saw there earlier were simply horrifying, and I hope the authorities can quickly find out sort of who was involved in this. It's very unnecessary. I think we have shown as a country that there are ways to resolve disputes. We have courts that are on standby, and I think the Chief Justice had even given orders on the same, but it seems like there's a movement now, Jeff, okay?
Yep.
Deputy President, Moses Wetangula, Mike Sonko, and others have now made their way in. I already said I've seen the Deputy President William Ruto leading that team there to take his position there. I think someone in the gallery didn't quite hear me a bit earlier on. And of course, the Kenya Kwanza UDA candidate. I guess, Jeff, we are now waiting for the 3 commissioners.
That's right.
Because they are the only ones. And it's only Wafula, actually. Article 138, subsection 10, right? Stipulates the chairperson of the IEBC shall announce the president elect. And he's the national returning officer and the presidential returning officer as well. So as much as there are 7 commissioners, the task of reading the name of the president-elect is up to Wafula Chebukati as envisioned in the law.
It looks like everyone's standing right now, which is a sign, guys. It's a sign. Let's listen in. Let's listen in.
Amani na uhuru, raha tupate na ustawi. yetu ilinde, tuwajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. One.
One, two, 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 check 1 2. Check 1 2. 1 2. Microphone checking. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check. 1 2. Singike kwa house please. Sawa.
Tunatarajia muda mfupi kutoka sasa kwamba mwenyekiti wa IEBC Wafula Chebukati atafika hapo kwenye jukwaa ili kutangaza mshindi wa uchaguzi wa urais, jukumu ambalo ni lake kama afisa mkuu wa uchaguzi wa urais katika eneo hilo la Bomas. Mbali na yale ambayo tumeshuhudia awali, zile rabsha zilizokuwa katika ukumbi huo wa Bomas, na kwa upande mwingine makamishna wanne wa IEBC wakijitenga na lile ambalo wanasema ni tangazo litakalotolewa Bomas. Tunaona kwamba maafisa wa usalama wamerejesha hali ya utulivu katika ukumbi huo, mama mzazi wa naibu rais William Ruto akiondolewa katika ukumbi huo, lakini tayari tunaona pia viongozi wa dini wakiwa wamekaa hapo kwenye jukwaa pamoja na naibu wa rais William Ruto, mke wake Rachel na mgombea mwenza wake ambaye alikuwa mbunge wa Mathira Rigathi Gachagua.
And as you can see there, the hall restored to order, thankfully, to the action of the authorities. There we can see the IEBC chair, Wafula Chebukati, making his way to the dais as we await him to make the declaration of the winner of the 2022 general election presidential race. He, of course, is the national returning officer, the presidential returning officer, and he will make public the contents of the Form 34C, which will then become the Form 34D that he'll hand over to the winner once he announces. And of course, there, Deputy President William Ruto, the UDA presidential candidate, who is also joined by his wife, Rachel Ruto. Let's listen in now.
This is the moment Kenya has been waiting for. The nation has been anxious, but we want to urge all Kenyans, let us now put our anxiety aside. The Bible says the end of a matter is better than the beginning. We want to urge the country to remain united. We have families to look after, an economy to grow, children who will go back to school. We want our nation back. Let us all pray together. Heavenly Father, here we stand before you as a nation of Kenya. We have always seen your hand of mercy, looking after us, watching after us. Even when we push ourselves to the brink, you always know how to lift us up. Lord, we want to ask you that you'll guide the nation of Kenya today as we are going to hear the announcement of the process that has always been on. And Lord, when we hear the outcome, our prayer is that you'll keep this nation united. You'll make us find our being and love one another and care for each other, for we all belong together. None of us is going to go anywhere. We will remain to support each other and grow this country. We commit, oh God, all those who have been leading us to you in their various formation, that you will bless them. And as the election has come to a conclusion, we know there are those who have lost. Lord, we ask that you will help them as they come to terms. And even those who have won, Lord, help them to be magnanimous in their winning and embrace everybody. For they have been given an opportunity to lead those who voted for them and those who did not vote for them. So, Lord, bind us together with cords of love that cannot be broken. Enable us, oh God, to emerge out of this, shake off our dust, and march on and build this great nation. Lord, for the exercise ahead of us, we commit the chair and the commissioners before you, and all of us gathered in this room, that your will prevails, your presence overwhelms us, and this nation, oh God, will not go to the drain because you reign. This is our prayer in the name of God the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good evening. So Kenyans came out and voted on the 9th of August, and these are the results of what the will of the Kenyan people reflects. These results are in the public portal. The same results which I'm reading here are the ones in the public portal. So there were 4 presidential candidates. These are the aggregated results. Odinga Raila, total valid votes, 6,942,930. And this represents 48.85% of the votes garnered, and he achieved a number of counties the candidate attained with at least 25% of the total valid votes cast is 34 counties. Ruto William Samoei, number of valid votes, 7 million. Thank you. 7,176,141. This represents 50.49%. And he achieved the minimum number of 39 counties at 25%. Waihika David Maure, number of valid votes in figures 31,987. That represents 0.23%. Number of counties with a minimum of 25%, 0. Wachakoya George Luchiri, 61,969. Those are valid votes. Percentage of votes cast 0.44%, and number of counties with a minimum of 25% attained, 0. So, in accordance with the law, the Constitution and the law, I, Wafula Chebukati, Chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, hereby declares that Ruto William Samoei of ID number 6847208 has been duly elected as the President of the Republic of Kenya under the provisions of Article 138 of the Constitution in the presidential election held on 9th of day of August 2022. And I'll proceed to sign the certificate. I invite the President-elect to come forward and receive his certificate.
Habari njema kwa Wakenya wote, tume huru ya uchaguzi na mipaka isiyoegemea upande wowote, inayodumisha demokrasi Kenya. Kura yako ni siku zako za usoni, chagua uongozi utajivunia. Jihusishe na upige kura, inaleta mabadiliko. Chagua uongozi ulio bora, ewe mwananchi mzalendo. Ni tume huru. And of course the president-elect had a running mate. Rigathi Gachagua is the deputy president-elect. Thank you. I invite the president-elect to make his remarks. And thank you, Kenyans, for having a peaceful election. Thank you. Kenya kipenzi chetu, nchi yenye upendo, hatutaacha Kenya daima na milele. Mwenzangu, Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima. Sote wananchi wa Kenya kutumikia Kenya daima na milele. Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima. Wenzangu, Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima. Kenya ni mama yetu, tena ni baba yetu, hatutaacha Kenya daima na milele. Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima. Wenzangu, Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele. Sitaiacha Kenya nchi yangu. Sitadanganywa kamwe na wageni. Mimi mwana Kenya daima, wala sitapotoshwa na wabaya. Mimi ni mwana Kenya daima, sitasaliti Kenya nchi yangu. Mimi ni mwana Kenya daima, wala mtajinga. Mimi ni mwana Kenya daima. Tushangilie Kenya, taifa letu tukufu. Kenya tunayoipenda, taifa letu tunayoipenda, Kenya nchi tunayoipenda. Anayependa Kenya ni yule mwenye kutenda haki kwa watu wote. Mtu mwenye kutenda haki, mtu mwenye kutenda haki. Na ukipenda Kenya, ujitengane na mambo yenye kuvunja amani. Hatutaki matata Kenya, hatutaki matata Kenya daima.
Kenya kipenzi, hatutaiacha milele daima. Twende Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima. Namaliza. Mimi ni mwana Kenya daima, na nikienda ng'ambo nitarudi. Mimi ni mwana Kenya daima, sitawacha makabila zitugawanye. Mimi ni mwana Kenya daima. Wenzangu, Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima. Kenya kipenzi chetu, hatutaiacha milele daima. Mungu Baba twaomba, uilinde nchi yetu, tuimbe tuishi kwa chuki situmalize, tusameane, tupendane. Ni wewe Mungu, tunasema Mungu Baba twaomba, uilinde nchi yetu kabisa, tuishi kwa upendo, chuki situmalize, tusameane, tupendane. Ni wewe Mungu. Can we say love, love, love one? Umeweka DJ? Haya, sawa sawa. Asanteni wa Kenya kwa amani. Tunaenda pamoja tuimbe wimbo hii, na baada ya hapo nasema kwanza kabla kwenda, asanteni kwaya, tujipigie makofi. Watu walisema wajue mnatoa nguvu wapi, Mungu awakumbuke. Mungu Baba twaomba, uilinde nchi yetu. Oh ya 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 ya. Tuishi kwa umoja, chuki situmalize, tusameane, tupendane. Wewe Mungu pekee, Mungu Baba twaomba, uilinde Kenya yetu. Kila mtu twende. Tuishi kwa upendo, chuki situmalize, tusameane, shangiliane. Kila mtu twende. Hapa kabisa. Love one another. What can you do to say not love one another? We say serve one another. What can you do to say not serve each other? We are the leaders of today. We are the kings of today. We are the princes and the queens of now. We are the one that the Lord has chosen. Yes, we are the one with the power today. Yes. My oh my Kenya, my land, my residence, my president, my town, my city, my crown, my love, my joy, my pride, my oh my Kenya, my land, my residence, my president, my town, my city, my crown, my love. Hapo sasa kiendelea. Mungu Baba twaomba, uilinde nchi yetu. Kila mtu tuishi kwa umoja, chuki situmalize, tusameane, tupendane. Wewe Mungu pekee, Mungu Baba twaomba, uilinde Kenya yetu. Kila mtu twende. Tuishi kwa upendo, chuki situmalize, tuungane, shangiliane. Kila mtu twende. Raundi hii wasee na washow, tusipochunga Vision 2030 itakuwa Vision 3020. Violin. Maombi, amani, upendo, umoja. Maombi, amani, upendo. Haya, twende. Amani, upendo, umoja. Maombi, amani.
Weka Kenya ni mimi, Kenya ni wewe. Tumalizie pamoja hiyo, si ndio? Haya, twende pamoja, weka mikono hapo. Tumalizie kwa pamoja.
Kwenye kaputa. Kenya ni mimi. Kenya ni wewe.
Wanakwenda twende pamoja.
Ayo. Kenya ni nchi yangu. Kenya ninaipenda. Kenya ni nchi yangu. Kenya nitaijenga. Kenya ni mimi. Kenya ni wewe. Kenya tuwa moja. Kenya ni mimi. Kenya ni wewe. Kenya tuwa moja. Babu zetu walituonyesha maana ya umoja. Hizo nyayo zao tutakiwa kufuata. Hivyo nasema amani. Akijua tuwa moja, damu yako leo ikitolewa, utashangaa ni kama ya mwenzako. Mbona tupigane? Mbona tusosane? Mbona tuchukiane? Wakenya, Kenya ni nchi yangu. Kenya, 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 Kenya ninaipenda. Vijana mna Mungu, vijana mna nguvu. Msikubali kuharibu Kenya. Msitumike na mtu yeyote asiyependa kujenga Kenya. Oh, yele mama. Yele mama. Yele mama. Yele mama. Oh, yele mama. Yele mama. Yele mama. Yele mama. Usipige mwenzako, piga kura. Chagua lako. Unapomaliza nenda nyumbani. Ngojea chaguo la Mungu. Maana chaguo la Mungu ni amani. Amani. Upendo. 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 Nakupenda mwenzangu. Upendo. Nakupenda. Upendo. Itakulinda.
Amazing. Mungu awabariki. Mungu bariki Kenya. It is well with us.
Kwenye kaputa. Kenya ni mimi. Kenya ni wewe. Ayo.
Nasema tutulie hivi.
Sidhani kama kuna picha nyingine mnahitaji kuliko.
Twende kidogo mpaka mbele. Twende kidogo mpaka mbele.
Mwambie pande juu.
tonight. Celebrations ringing across the country. Those are live pictures coming in from Kapsabet and Kisii supporters of the newly elected President-elect William Samoei Ruto. And of course, it was captured at the Bomas of Kenya when the IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, officially declared him the winner of the presidential race of the general election 2022. Of course, several celebratory messages also coming in for the newly elected president. The Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed congratulating him for his win, including the Somali president as well, Farmajo, who also shared his congratulations to the newly elected president. But of course, many of these messages will be coming in, Wahiga, through the course of the hours and days to come.
I've actually also seen a message from the Zimbabwean president, Edward Mnangagwa, also congratulating Kenya's fifth president-elect, William Samoei Ruto, who, according to that declaration by Wafula Chebukati, garnered 7,176,141 votes. That's 50.49% of votes tallied, whilst his closest competitor, that's the Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga, garnered 6,942,930 votes. That puts him at 48.85% of total votes cast. Mashirima.
Na ukiangalia hayo matokeo unaona kwamba tofauti ni kura 233,211. Kinyang'anyiro ambacho bila shaka kilikuwa kigumu kati ya wagombea hawa wakuu, lakini la msingi ni hotuba ya kwanza ya rais aliyechaguliwa William Samoei Ruto, kwamba akielezea imani yake kwamba bila Mungu wangekuwa hawajafika mahali ambapo wamefika, akishukuru mamilioni ya Wakenya ambao walisikiza timu yake, wakajitokeza, wakaenda wakapiga kura, na kusema kwamba la msingi ni kwamba katika uchaguzi huu hakuja kuwa na yote aliyekosa na yule aliyeshinda. Wakenya ndio wameshinda na wamehakikisha vile viwango vya uchaguzi katika taifa hili la Kenya vimeongezeka. Jeff.
That's right, Mashirima. And, you know, it was a very conciliatory speech, thanking everyone from his worthy opponent, Raila Odinga. He also thanked his boss, he called him, boss President Uhuru Kenyatta, for working with him for the last 10 years. He thanked his wife, Rachel. He thanked his team. He thanked God several times. And he said, this country, even those who didn't vote for him, he's going to work for them because he needs, quote, all hands on deck. Sam Kona, Titus Makano, your thoughts on the announcement right there a few moments ago and the celebrations we're seeing right now?
Fine. Of course, it's expected that in any election there will be a loser and there will be a winner. It presents something we call in law the calculus of felicity, such that it's an inherent human nature to move towards a pleasure, and it's also an inherent human nature to try and move away from pain. Of course, what we are seeing here is the calculus of felicity at play. The people who have won and they are associated with a win are celebrating, and the people who seemed not happy with an election, which is normally normal, of course, a bit not contented. But of course, the Constitution provides the hallmark of how to approach such an issue.
Mm-hmm.
That is, of course, we are anticipating a situation. If a petition is filed within the 7 days, then it has to be heard and determined within 14 days.
Yeah.
But in the event of failure of a petition being filed, then the first Tuesday after lapse of 14 days from today, the president-elect will be sworn into office.
Bobby, I know you also want to react to the pictures that our viewers are seeing on the screen right now, but a question that's been coming in quite a bit is the question of the press briefing that was held before that declaration by the other four commissioners. What possible legal implications could that have? Because, you know, the Constitution on one hand mandates Wafula Chebukati, the IEBC chairperson, to make the announcement, but the IEBC Act speaks about how decisions are handled within the commission, and that's why they're an odd number. Talk to us about that as you react to these pictures.
I mean, the chairperson of the IEBC has executed his mandate as per Article 138(10), which gives him the sole authority of declaring who the president-elect is. Now, the details of, quorum, details of the decision-making, whether there was unanimity in or not, which now we guess we know there wasn't because of the 4 coming out and declaring that. We assume, because we don't know, let me say we assume because we don't have the minutes of that meeting. I think part of the issues that will need to be interrogated by none other than the Supreme Court of Kenya, if a petition or petitions are filed before it. And the important thing to note is that I think even the commissioners themselves have a right to present petitions before that court. And I would
actually see a commissioner.
I would imagine that if they have. Because this is a very, very important matter, an issue of grave public interest. And the responsible thing to me would be for them to present a petition before the Supreme Court. And prosecute the fact that they themselves, as a part of the commission, have evidence that shows that the decision-making exercise, and as I said, the tail end of it, and the verification of the results of the presidential election was compromised. So. I think going forward, this is not an issue that, for them especially, should be prosecuted in the public domain. But they, as state officers, as Kenyans, ladies and gentlemen, who have sworn to abide by and protect the Constitution, I think the logical and responsible thing to do would be to follow the same Constitution and follow the channels that are prescribed in the Constitution in prosecuting their issue.
Let's stick to the law, no matter how we may feel. Some of the interesting things that the 5th president-elect said in his speech, let me just recap briefly, and I know my colleagues here have other questions for my guests. He termed IBC as the hero, stated that there are no losers, went on to cite Wafula Chebukati as a hero, and some of his actions, for example, by saying that without informing the country, he put results on the portal, which was considered a game changer. And indeed, that has been a big discussion we've had across the numerous panels we've had over the last couple of days. He also spoke about thanking his competitors, and he singled out the Azimio candidate Raila Odinga for a campaign based on issues and an agenda. And he stated that he will work with all elected leaders from both sides of the political divide, if you can put it that way. And he pledged to run a transparent and open and a democratic government. And we'll continue playing you snippets of that speech there by the 5th President-elect William Samoei Ruto, even as we continue with our broadcast.
Certainly. I want to go back to something that IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati had said, that he was there to perform a constitutional duty and stand before that gathering despite the intimidation and harassment. And I think sometimes you can take for granted the fact that the Constitution birthed that moment. When you think about how much was put into it to protect such events and such pronouncements. And the reason why I ask this, and Titus or Bobby, you can take this, there's a lot of questions as to the quorum of the IEBC commissioners that time the announcement was made, and whether there was a need for all of them to be there, despite the fact that Wafula Chebukati is the presidential returning officer. But what does the law actually say about the quorum of the other commissioners?
All right. Just as my colleague Bobby said, Article 138(10) of the Constitution mandates the chairperson to declare the results. Now, if you look at the IBC Act as to the, and that should be the second schedule, Rule 5, it provides for the quorum for purposes of conducting business. It says that for purposes of meeting the quorum, the IBC ought to have at least 3 commissioners, that is the chairperson and 2 other persons, 2 other commissioners. The purpose for that, and I think the framers of the law is, you remember a while back we were in a situation whereby most of the commissioners had resigned. And I think the chairperson remained, I think, with 2 or 1? With 2. With 2. So it makes the operations of the commission very difficult because they need to arrive at certain decisions in the course of their business. But the intention of having all the commissioners around the chairman at the time of making such a declaration is for purposes of legitimizing the decisions and their actions. So whereas on one hand, legally he's entitled to make a declaration because he has been given that mandate to hold brief on behalf of the commission by virtue of Article 138(10) of the Constitution. On the other hand, it is persuasive and it sort of achieves a legitimacy of the commission if all the commissioners are standing by him.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely, as I was saying before, the optics around this compromise, the declaration and the announcement, but the technicalities of it cannot be determined in the court of public opinion. We'll all have our opinions about what that means. Mine is that it greatly, compromises was declared. It doesn't illegitimize it. That, I think, is a standard that has to be declared by the authority or institution that has been constitutionally given that authority, and can do that through evidence. And I hope, that's what I was saying, I hope the commissioners who are not happy with the decision will approach the right, the right institution so that they can lay before the institution the evidence they have, and all Kenyans and everyone in the globe can see for themselves the evidence that they have that will make Kenyans understand why they delete themselves from the rest of the commission chairperson during the decision making. In terms of the quorum again, that's what I was saying, we don't have details because when the chairperson was coming out to declare, and since Tuesday, the commission, I assume, has been meeting. I assume either from last night or today in the morning, they met and to deliberate about this in terms of whether they were correct or not. Those are the issues now that will come out. But in terms of when the chairperson came out to make the declaration, we assume that it was made or arrived at from a meeting in camera that the commission did have. So the declaration was to announce what the decision was from, or the minute from that meeting, we assume. And again, that was based on the results that they purportedly verified, tallied, and eventually the chairperson announced as constitutionally mandated. So I think those are details now that Lady Justice Martha Koome and her able team will look into. But again, assuming that any Kenyan, as the Constitution allows, will file a petition before that honorable court.
Naam, ukiwa unazungumzia maswala ya kupeleka kesi mahakamani kupinga matokeo, wale ambao wanapinga wana siku 7. Nadhani hadi Jumatatu kuwasilisha kesi hiyo. Kwa mtazamo wako, jinsi ambavyo uchaguzi huu umeendeshwa, na kwa sababu ule mzigo wa idhibati ama ushahidi huko katika yule ambaye anapinga uchaguzi huu, kwa mtazamo wako, unaona kama hiki kitakuwa kibarua kigumu ama kitakuwa kipesi?
Ni vigumu kubaini kwa wakati huu, manake ni kiwango cha ushahidi ambao ambacho kinaweza kubaini kama itakuwa ni kibarua kigumu au la. Manake kuna wale ambao wamekuwa wakizua kwamba na kuonyesha kwamba pengine kulikuwa na itilafu na tashwishi tofauti. Kuna wengine pengine watataka kuelekea mahakamani kwa sababu nyinginezo. Pengine naweza kutaja, nimeona kwamba kuna mgombea mmoja ambaye hakuidhinishwa kuweza kushiriki katika uchaguzi kama mgombea rasmi, ambaye nimeona alitangaza kwamba ataelekea mahakamani pia. Kwa hivyo kutakuwa na sababu tofauti, na kwa sababu katiba inaruhusu Mkenya yote ambaye ataweza kufanikisha vigezo vya kikatiba na sheria nyinginezo kuweza kuelekea mahakamani. Kwa hivyo kama tunavyosema, yale ambayo tumeona kwa wale makamishna wanne kujiondoa, na wamesema tu kwamba kulikuwa hakuna uwazi wa kutosha, lakini hawajatoa maelezo ya ziada, na nadhani pengine hawakutoa hayo maelezo manake huo ndio ushahidi wao na wataki kutangaza ushahidi wao kwa sasa. Na pengine kupitia wengine, pengine kupitia kesi ambayo itawasilishwa na wagombea tofauti, wanaweza kutumia ule ushahidi ama wao wenyewe kuelekea mahakamani. Na kwa wao pia ni lazima watoe ushahidi ni kwa nini wanasema ama wanaonelea kwamba kulikuwa hakuna uwazi wa kutosha. Kwa hivyo sio matamshi yao peke yake, lakini ushahidi ambao ni lazima wawasilishe na waweke mbele ya mahakimu ndio ambao utaweza kuamua kama ni kiwango kikubwa ambacho kisheria na kikatiba kitaishawishi mahakama kuweza kubatilisha matokeo kama yalivyotangazwa na mwenyekiti wa tume.
Jeff, I know you're... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Bobby and Titus, I know you can see the celebrations literally live around the country. And the president-elect was quick to thank his worthy opponent. The one section we haven't heard from so far is Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Party.
We may have.
We may have. Go on.
A tweet posted 5 minutes ago by the Azimio la Umoja Deputy President candidate Martha Karua. She stated, "It is not over till it is over."
Oh.
So that's her statement so far.
It's not over until it is over.
Until it's over. I think a clear indication that what these learned gentlemen here next to us are saying is true. You'll probably be seeing a Supreme Court petition very soon. They have about 7 days to do so, and that's expected to happen. But Jeff, there's a lot happening around the country, isn't there?
Absolutely. Celebrations from Kerugoya to Eldoret to Nyeri, all over, in points in between. People are literally in the streets celebrating the win of Kenya's 5th President-elect William Samoei Arap Ruto.
But Jeff, even as we continue to show those celebrations, there's a commission that, and according to that announcement made by the chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, there aren't too many celebrations happening there tonight. He stated when he read out the presidential results that at this moment, 2 of the commissioners and the CEO were injured. He also stated that the Embakasi East returning officer is still missing. Staff members of the IEBC have been arbitrarily arrested with their locations unknown until this time. That's unacceptable. Staff have been profiled as well. And I want to hear from both Titus and Bobby. Bobby, of course, and you are part of the team that put this new constitution together and played a key role in that as well. We did not envision this when we spoke about independent commissions. And I believe Wafula Chebukati must be believed when he puts this evidence public, you know, live on all TV stations.
Yes. And I think part of it, we've been seeing it in social media. So he sort of vindicates because, as you were saying earlier, there's a lot that's been circulating within social media, and we were to take it with a pinch of salt, you know. But when it comes from the chairperson, it sort of confirms that all these incidents have been taking place. And as you rightly put it, you know, for us as a committee of experts, what we were doing was to echo and mirror what Kenyans wanted. And I think Kenyans did not envision or anticipate that would come to have such issues, especially to do with the elections management body. When you look at how it is constituted, the parameters around its independence, itself, as a commission, but also broadly as a Chapter 15 commission in the Constitution, the independence of particular commissioners, and all these were done again within the prescription that the IREC Commission, popularly known as the Kriegler's Commission, that interrogated what went wrong and had been going on with the management of elections in our country, and especially so the 2007 elections that was led by the now defunct ECK. And so what you see in the current constitution is an echo of the prescriptions from the Kriegler's Commission, but also the views that came from Kenyans when the guy-led commission, the CKRC Commission, that collected views from all corners of the country as to what Kenyans wanted in the Constitution, speak to. So Kenyans expected elections to be better run and not to see anything like we saw in 2007 and early 2008. I hope we don't get there. I mean, since the 2010 Constitution, yes, we've had contested elections. We fought bitterly, but fortunately, we've had dispute resolution mechanisms that we have adhered to, and especially the Supreme Court. I think the bigger problem for us is political. It's now beyond technical and constitutional, because if you look at what happened in 2007, yes, we had a Supreme Court petition, and one and globally, making history. The court nullified, the results thereof and ordered for a repeat election. We know what happened thereafter, unfortunately. And the problem, why I'm saying now is not technical or constitutional, is because in as much as the Supreme Court pronounced itself during that occasion, the political heat did not, subside. And so I think it's around the politics, political, makeup and formations.
Yes, exactly.
That we need to, get into and really interrogate. And I think nationally, not just amongst, a cabal of a political class that wants to make decisions.
Titus, and I know you want to respond to this, but let me bring to your attention a notice from the Office of the Registrar of the Supreme Court. And this is legitimate, the filing of instructions on the filing of a presidential election petition. It's been sent out to all advocates, litigants, and the general public. They give directions that you should file this petition exclusively at the Supreme Court Sub-Registry located at Forodha House, just down the road from adjacent to the Milimani Law Courts, along Upper Hill Close Road. And the instructions are the petition deadline on the last available day of filing, which is 7 days from today, should be before 1400 hours of that day. So I think the court is preparing itself for...
correct, very precisely. Of course, at this juncture, upon the chairperson of IBC making a declaration of the president-elect, Article 140 automatically is invoked, such that any aggrieved party that feels that they've been disenfranchised in any manner, they have a right to approach the Supreme Court, file their petition, and have it heard and determined within the 14 days thereafter. So basically what the registrar, who is an administrator of the Supreme Court, is executing his administrative role of just informing parties or those who seem or feel that they have been aggrieved that, hey, you have now 7 days to approach the court and assert your grievances. So he's basically doing his administrative role. But perhaps to just weigh in onto the issues of violence that have been talked about by the chair.
And concerns about the safety of IBC staffers.
It's quite unfortunate that in this time and age, the commissioners or any other person who has been mandated to execute a responsibility that they have been given by the Kenyans under the Constitution could be disenfranchised or threatened in any manner. Our Constitution and our laws provide for dispute resolution mechanisms. In case you are aggrieved in any manner, you are free to exhaust all those avenues, because you can imagine if each person in this country resorts to illegal and lawlessness, then we are staring at a state of nature. Yet we are supposed to abide the law.
Naam, wakati huu ambapo tunaona kwamba kuna shangwe, sherehe zinazoendelea katika baadhi ya maeneo, bila shaka kuna sehemu ambazo wale ambao hawakumpigia kura William Samoei Ruto wana manuniko, wana huzuni wakati kama huu. Na katika hotuba yake hapo, rais wa tano aliyechaguliwa William Ruto anasema kwamba wale ambao walikuwa wanampinga hawana chochote cha kuogopa, kwamba hakuna nafasi ya kujaribu kulipiza kisasi, kwamba wanataka kila mmoja kama taifa tuweze kuja pamoja. Ni nini haswa ambacho rais aliyechaguliwa pamoja na yule ambaye hajafurahishwa na matokeo wanapaswa kufanya ili kuhakikisha kwamba taifa linasimama pamoja? Bobby.
Nadhani na hapo awali tulikuwa tathmini nini ambacho wagombea wanapaswa kufanya, na tuliona kikianza jana, wagombea wanajitokeza na kama ni kusalimu amri na kutoa hoja zao za kukubali matokeo, na hilo ni jambo ambalo lilikuwa natarajiwa, na tumemsikia yule ambaye ametawazwa kama mshindi wa uchaguzi wa wakati huu akitaja kama ulivyosema kwamba ndio ni mshindi, lakini kama yeye ni rais, manake ukishatawazwa rais, wewe ni rais wa wote, waliokupigia kura, ambao hawakupigia kura, ambao ni wafuasi wako, ambao si wafuasi wako, wanachama wako, si kwa hivyo ni rais wa Kenya wote. Nadhani la busara, na sijui kwa sababu tumeona kwamba vurugu imefika kiasi cha kwamba kuna vita wakati ule. Kwa hivyo kwangu ni kusiwe na chuki cha kiwango kile, kwamba pengine kuanzia kesho kuna jinsi na mikakati ambayo na wahusika vizuri. Tumeona viongozi wa kidini ambao walikuwa pale, na nadhani hata walipotoka katika ukumbi wa Bomas watafanya mikutano na watajaribu kukutana na washiriki wote, wadau wote wa pande zote, na kuanza kufanya majadiliano na mikutano ya kujaribu kuwaleta pamoja na kutafuta suluhu. La busara pia ni kwamba pengine tutaweza kusikia kutoka wagombea wengine rasmi, sio kupitia mawakala wao, lakini wao wenyewe rasmi waweze kutoa maoni yao kuhusu yaliyojiri, na pia kutoa mwongozo, manake nadhani wakitoa mwongozo wa ni nini wanachotarajia kufanya, hilo ni jambo ambalo huwa linatuliza hamasa na mchecheto, na haswa kama ulivyosema katika zile sehemu ambazo zina wagombea wale ambao hawakushinda na wafuasi pia wale ambao hawakushinda. Nadhani wakipata taarifa na maelezo na mwongozo kutoka haswa mrengo wa Azimio, basi pengine hamasa zitaweza kutulia, manake watajua pengine tutaelekea mahakamani, kuna daraja nyingine, ama huu ndio mkondo ambao tutachukua. Lakini kwa sasa nadhani ni wadau wengine kama viongozi wa kidini. Najua hapo awali tumeweza kuona tuseme kama ni wanadiplomasia na ambassadors wa kutoka mataifa mengine wakijaribu kuingilia mambo kama haya, na haya najua yanaendelea kama tunavyozungumza, na kuanzia kesho pia, ili tuweze kupata mwafaka wa kwenda mbele.
Titus and Bobby, you look at live pictures there from Kerugoya. The celebrations literally are continuing.
Without doubt, there must be celebrations in those areas, because those are areas that perceived to have voted overwhelmingly for the president-elect and his deputy.
Yeah.
So, as I explained earlier on, in law, more specifically in jurisprudence of law, there is something called calculus of felicity, the inherent nature to move towards pain and pleasure. These ones are exhibiting the inherent nature of moving towards pleasure.
I want to refer to a tweet now posted on the official account of the 5th president-elect, and actually his title now on his Twitter account is President-elect Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto. He's quoted from the book of Isaiah, chapter 12, verse 4, which says, "In that day you will say, give praise to the Lord, proclaim his name, make known amongst the nations what he has done, and proclaim that his name is exalted." That's the first post by the president-elect, with 4 pictures there. The first picture with him shaking hands with the IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati with Form 34D in hand. The second picture is him and his deputy president-elect, Rigathi Gachagua, displaying that certificate. There's another picture of Wafula Chebukati signing, penning his signature to the certificate to make it legal. And then a picture of him addressing those present at that auditorium at the Bomas of Kenya, the Uchaguzi Hall, to be more specific. So we're getting communication. It's coming in slowly from different leaders, but the president-elect has shared his first post. We've also heard from the deputy president candidate on the Azimio side. And we will continue to monitor formal and online communication and share as soon as we can get that out.
That's right. And just a correction that it was actually the former president of Somalia, Farmajo, who congratulated the president-elect William Ruto. Speaking of which, gentlemen, let me bring you in here. In terms of what we heard Chebukati say, the IEBC chair, that the results reflect the will of the people. And these are the same results that are on the public portal. You know, it opened up the servers, as the president-elect had said. How much of a game changer was this election cycle?
I think and again, we must remember that IEBC thus far was trying to abide by what the Supreme Court prescribed to it when it nullified the 2017 presidential election results. And part of that, thinking within the broader scope of what the Constitution calls for, and we did put that as Kenyans as being part of our national values and principles of good governance, and the issue of transparency and also inclusivity and public participation, that in ensuring that the results, and especially those from the polling station, are made available to every Kenyan at the time of their declaration is done, did greatly infuse transparency and to a certain extent, credibility. Unfortunately, up to these latter stages of verifying the same results. And again, I think what it does is it helps the commission, because I think that's what the chairman was saying. If you have any doubt about what I've pronounced, it's as simple as you getting out a calculator, accessing the forms. Yes, there is the technical challenge of downloading the 46,000 plus forms, but there are many Kenyans who've actually undertaken that task, and they have been providing what their results are. And I believe probably now, henceforth, more will actually do it to see whether their tallies do agree with that Chebukatis. And I think to a great extent, that may be what gives him the confidence that at the end of the day, he may be publicly vindicated because in 2017, the problem was servers being closed, passwords are unavailable, I think, till today. But in 2022, it's open for all and sundry to look into and see whether what the Commission has reported to Kenyans does add up. So in terms of infusing transparency, in terms of bring about credibility, which at the end of the day also, and upon perhaps now examination through the Supreme Court process, will let us know whether this was a free and fair election. I think that's what will help, that it's not only a limited number of people who have access to certain information, but now it's everyone who can actually access and look into. Unless now we can have valid evidence, and I think that's what will need to be presented in court, that perhaps the transmission or the forms had there was interventions, and that into the systems. I think that's the only thing that can now damage the entire exercise of availing information to the public during this exercise.
Nadhani kuna ujumbe mwingine ambao umetoka kwa rais aliyechaguliwa William Samoei Ruto katika mtandao wa Twitter. Awali Wahiga alikuwa amesoma kwanza na bado tu anaendelea kutoa ujumbe wake, ujumbe ambao ni kutoka kwa maandiko matakatifu. Jeremiah 29:11 akisema, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." Nadhani tukizidi tu kuzungumzia swala hili, kuna jambo lingine ambalo rais ambaye amechaguliwa amelitaja kwamba atahakikisha ile serikali ambayo anaiendesha itakuwa na uwazi na itakuwa na demokrasia, na akisema kwamba ataweka nafasi ya upande wa upinzani kufuatilia yale ambayo utawala wake utakuwa unafanya. Matamshi kama haya yanatoa imani kwa Wakenya kuhusiana na ile serikali ambayo tutarajia iwapo hakutakuwa na kesi mahakamani au kama ataapishwa baadaye. Titus.
Kwa kawaida sidhani kwamba kuna mtu ambaye amechaguliwa tu anaweza sema ya kwamba serikali yangu haitakuwa na uwazi. So kwa hivyo kulingana na pale ambapo mimi nakaa, yule yeyote ambaye amechaguliwa lazima aonyeshe ya kwamba atawahudumia watu wote, atawahudumia Wakenya wote. Lakini sasa ni muda ndio ambao utatuwezesha kujua kama kweli anamaanisha kile anasema, vile ambapo ataweza kuanza shughuli za serikali ikiwa koti na ikiwa hizi tetesi zote ambazo upande wa Azimio zitaweza kuletwa na koti iamue. Sasa wakati ule ambao kweli ataanza shughuli yake ya kuongoza, tutaweza kujua kama kweli alikuwa anamaanisha vile ambavyo amesema.
Kwa hivyo bado kibarua kipo.
Kibarua kipo, na vizuri ni kwamba huu mchakato kama tumeona ama tulivyotaja, kulikuwa na hali ya, ama kiwango chake cha uwazi kilikuwa ni bora tukilinganisha na chaguzi za hapo awali, na pia hawa ni wagombea wote ambao walijitokeza na kutangaza ilani zao, manifesto zao, na wananchi wanazifahamu, na haswa rais mteule yeye alitumia mbinu ya kwamba alienda na kukutana na watu katika maeneo tofauti na kujadiliana na watu, na mwishowe kama alivyotangaza manifesto yake ama kama alivyoita plan ama mpango, alitaja kwamba ni mpango ambao umetokana na matakwa na ushauri na mahitaji ya watu. Kwa hivyo kwa hayo, na endapo yeye mwishowe ndio atakuwa ameamuliwa kuwa ndio rais, kwa manake mchakato hujakamilika. Endapo yeye ndio ataapishwa kama rais, basi wananchi wa Kenya watampima na yale ambayo ameyatangaza katika manifesto yake. Na pia tukumbuke kwamba yeye kama kiongozi ama kama rais atakula kiapo cha kuilinda katiba na kufuata sheria, na kwa mjibu huo pia Wakenya wataweza kumpima kama anaendesha shughuli zake kikatiba na kisheria, na mipango yake kwa mjibu wa manifesto ambayo aliafikiana na wananchi, kama hayo mambo ambayo aliyoafikiana nao anayatekeleza. Kwa hivyo nadhani hapo kutakuwa na mbinu mzuri ama mkakati mzuri wa Kenya kuweza kutathmini utendakazi wake.
Gentlemen, I'm actually scouring the IEBC Elections Act 2011 to get a sense of some of the questions our viewers are asking us, of course, about the absence of those 4 commissioners as the results were being read there at the Bomas of Kenya. And also, what are some of the possible laws and subsections of either the Elections Act or the Constitution that could come up for discussion once a petition has been presented before the Supreme Court, and there's a strong sense from the legal minds in this studio that is the next course of action, especially for those agree. So, for example, in Article 39, subsection 1C, for purposes of a presidential election, this is in the Elections Act, the Commission shall, 1, electronically transmit in a prescribed form the tabulated results of an election for the President from a polling station to the constituency tallying center and the national tallying center, and we've been talking about this quite a bit. Tally and verify the results received at the National Tallying Center. Publish the polling result forms on an online public portal maintained by the Commission, which Wafula Chebukati took time to explain that this is where these results are from. The chairperson of the Commission shall then declare the results of the election in accordance with Article 138(10) of the Constitution, which, Bobby, you've been quoting. Before determining and declaring these final results, the Commission can even announce the provisional results of an election, and they can announce the provisional and then the final results in the order in which the tallying of results is completed. Bobby, from a legal perspective, and I've seen a lot more that we can talk about even as we continue, obviously the Constitution takes precedence over any acts that come thereafter. Mm-hmm. But the Constitution and these acts can also not anticipate each and every scenario that a democracy like ours will go through. What happens where there are lacunas, where there are loopholes in the law that the writers simply had not envisioned?
That's why we have the courts.
It's up to them.
Yes, where we fill the gaps of the Constitution, or rather, sometimes not necessarily gaps, but give flesh to the principles of the Constitution, because the Constitution cannot be over prescriptive. And so the limbs of the principles within the Constitution are enabled through acts of parliament. So,
Bobby, let me interrupt you. I'm told 5th President-elect William Samoei Ruto is addressing the press now at the Bomas of Kenya, the National Tallying Center.